Hello everyone. In today's lesson, we're going to look at some important figure of speech. So, let's get started. So, we will cover 14 figures of speech. First, simile, then metaphor, hyperbole, personification, onomatopoeia, alliteration, consonants, sonance, oxymoron, paradox, anaphora, irony, enjambment, apostrophe. So, what is a figures of speech? Figures of speech are words or phrases that are used in a way that is not intended to be literal, but rather to create clarity, interest, or rhetorical effect. Figures of speech are used all the time, even in our everyday language. In fact, chances are you have already said several figures of speech today. Well, what is a simile? A stated comparison, usually formed with like or as, between two fundamentally dissimilar things that have certain qualities in common. For example, Roberto was white as a sheet after he walked out of the horror movie. Our soldiers are as brave as lions. Metaphor. So, what is a metaphor? An implied comparison between two dissimilar things that have something in common. An implied comparison between two dissimilar things that have something in common. For example, all the world is a stage. Bob is a hungry wolf. He can eat a lot. Hyperbole. What is a hyperbole? An extravagant statement, the use of exaggerated terms for the purpose of emphasis or heightened effect. For example, I have a ton of things to do when I get home. He's running faster than the wind. Personification. What is a personification? A figure of speech in which an inanimate object or abstraction is endowed with human qualities or abilities. A figure of speech in which an inanimate object or abstraction is endowed with human qualities or abilities. For example, that kitchen knife will take a bite out of your hand if you don't handle it safely. Lightning danced across the sky. What is a onomatopoeia? The use of words that imitate the sounds associated with the objects or actions they refer to. Yes, the use of words that imitate the sounds associated with the objects or actions they refer to. Examples: the clap of thunder went bang and scared my poor dog. It is not unusual for a dog to bark when visitors arrive. Alliteration. The repetition of an initial consonant sound. Yes, the repetition of an initial consonant sound. Examples: she sells seashells by the seashore. A good cook could cook as much cookies as a good cook who could cook cookies. Consonants. What is a consonant? Repetition of a consonant sound and is typically used to refer to the repetition of sounds at the end of the word, but also refers to repeated sounds in the middle of a word. Yes, repetition of a consonant sound and is typically used to refer to the repetition of sounds at the end of the word, but also refers to repeated sounds in the middle of a word. Examples: Peter patter, Peter patter. I think I like the pink kite. Sonance. What is a sonance? Identity or similarity in sound between internal vowels in neighboring words. Identity or similarity in sound between internal vowels in neighboring words. Examples: How now, brown cow? Hear the mellow wedding bells. Oxymoron. What is an oxymoron? A figure of speech in which incongruous or contradictory terms appear side by side. Yes, a figure of speech in which incongruous or contradictory terms appear side by side. Examples: This is another fine mess you've got us into. The comedian was seriously funny. Paradox. What is a paradox? A statement that appears to contradict itself. Yes, a statement that appears to contradict itself. Examples: This is the beginning of the end. Deep down, you're really shallow. Anaphora. The repetition of the same word or phrase at the beginning of successive clauses or verses. Yes, the repetition of the same word or phrase at the beginning of successive clauses or verses. Examples: It's okay not to be okay. The ice was here, the ice was there. Irony. The use of irony or the use of words to convey the opposite of their literal meaning. Here, the word will be literal, not literap. Literal meaning. Also, a statement or situation where the meaning is contradicted by the appearance or presentation of the idea. Yes, the use of words to convey the opposite of their literal meaning. Also, a statement or situation where the meaning is contradicted by the appearance or presentation of the idea. For example, the green trees racing while the mother like a corpse. Enjambment. When a sentence, phrase, or thought does not end with the line poetry, rather it carries over to the next line. Typically, in enjambment, lines of poetry do not have punctuation at the end. Yes, when a sentence, phrase, or thought does not end with the line poetry, rather it carries over to the next line. Typically, enjambment lines of poetry do not have punctuation at the end. Example: Perhaps the earth can teach when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Apostrophe. Directly addressing a non existent or an inanimate object as though it were a living being, that is, when dead or absent things are addressed directly. Example: Twinkle, twinkle, little stars, how I wonder what you are. So here we can see directly addressing a non existent or an inanimate object as though it were a living being. That is when dead or absent things are addressed directly. Now let's practice. Identify my identity. So here there are 10 questions. First, look at my car. She's a beauty, isn't she? The candy was killing my cavity. You are clearly confused by the situation you have found yourself in. She is as skinny as a toothpick. You are my sunshine. Odds and ends. The buzzing bee flew away. I know one thing, that I know nothing. He is as cunning as a fox. Go and mow the lawn. So thank you so much for being with me in this lesson. I hope you got it all. Goodbye.